Join me in today's video for a reading vlog and review of Four Ruined Realms, the sequel to Five Broken Blades by Mai Corland. Hi, so I am back with a reading update on Four Ruined Realms. So I have made it to page 101, chapter 17. So far I am enjoying this, and this book does pick up right where book 1 left off. And I do feel like the beginning of this one feels a little slower than the first book was. And I think that has a lot to do with like our main characters at the beginning of this one. They're just trying to figure out what their next move is, and they're trying to figure out how to get to the queen, so there has been like a lot of talk amongst them. That being said, there still has been some action in this one so far, but I just feel like there hasn't been as much action as the first one had at the beginning. However, the tension in this one right from the beginning between our characters is already high because of what happened in the first book. None of the characters trust each other anymore. And speaking of the first book, there is, at the beginning of this book, there is a summary of the first book, which I really appreciated. And I just thought that was a nice basic refresher for book 1. And another thing I really appreciated that the beginning of this book had that I don't think book 1 had is there's a pronunciation guide on how to say the characters' names. And I realized I've probably been pronouncing like 90% of the names wrong in this book, so I really appreciate that this is in this book. And like the first one, my favorite characters remain Ari and Royo. And my heart already like goes out for the two of them at the beginning of this book because it's clear that they both still have feelings for each other, but Royo is kind of trying to keep his distance from Ari because of what happened in the first book, and Ari just thinks she messed everything up. And so the tension and the yearning and the angst is already there between the two of them, and it is just A+. I also feel like Sora is shining at the beginning of this book as well, because in these beginning chapters we have really gotten to see like all different sides of her. And similarly, Tai Young, his chapters perspectives in here have been short, but they feel like they have been more interesting in this one so far than they were in the first one, because in the first book he was like one of my least favorite chapter perspectives to read just because I didn't find him as interesting as the other characters. And then in contrast to them two, so far I'm finding Yoon and Mikhail's chapter perspectives to be my least favorite. They're just the two that I've been finding the least interesting so far. And I think it's because Mikhail, so far, a lot of his chapter perspectives have been focused on like politics stuff, and so far in the beginning of the book he has gone off by himself a lot, so he's not really interacting as much with the other characters. And my favorite thing about the first book was just seeing the characters and getting to know them and getting to see them interact with each other. Also, I feel like him and Yoon are also kind of like in a rut right now in their relationship, so it kind of just feels like their relationship is halted, and so like some of the stuff that has come up has felt a little repetitive from book 1 between them, but hopefully they will move past that soon and their chapter perspectives will also get more interesting. And I also like how so far we've gotten like little tidbits about the queen that maybe she's not as horrible as people think she is, or as horrible as the king in book 1 made her out to be, but who knows? We don't really know enough about her, but I am interested to see more of her. And it would be nice if she is actually like a decent human being. So far, those are all my thoughts at the moment. I'm not very far in. I feel very much like the story is just starting to get rolling. So hopefully from here, things will just keep getting better. Hi, so it is now a day later. It is Thursday, January 23rd. And I'm a little more than halfway through this book, so I wanted to give an update. So I'm on chapter 47, page 244. And I am happy to say that I am really enjoying this now. So my enjoyment level went up since my last update. And so I know in my last update I said that things were going kind of slowly, but right after that update, the next chapter that I read, things happened, things exploded, and things have just kept happening since then. So this book is back to being fast-paced, and I love that. And now where I'm at in the book, our characters have split up into two groups. And the groups consist of Sora, Yoon, and Mikael in one group, and then Ari and Royo in the other. And I love Ari and Roho, and I'm so glad that we get scenes with just them again. And there were just some scenes in this with Ari and Roho that were so precious, and I loved them so much. The scenes were just so cute. Scenes with the two of them were just making me all giddy again, just like I was feeling in the first book. And so I do want to share a passage from page 179 with Royo and Ari, and it's just like one that made me so giddy. So it reads, Royo shakes his head. You're the most foolish girl I know. But he says it like I love you. Being called a fool shouldn't make my chest fill with joy, but here we are. So I love that scene so much. And the chapter perspective that the scene is from Ari's point of view. And it's just like little moments between them and their dynamic that I love so much. It makes my heart so happy. I love the two of them. Also, I must mention that Ari, she ends up befriending a small baby white owl, and she ends up feeding it, and it starts like following her around everywhere and just like warning her when there's danger. And that's just like the most adorable thing ever, and that just makes me love her even more. So those two characters, Ari and Royo, they remain my favorites, but also I'm really enjoying Sora's character and her chapter perspectives in this book. But in this one, I feel like we're really getting like a look at her character, like a really like in-depth look at her character, and I love how she is so strong, and she has been through so much in her life, but she still like remains genuinely kind, and you see this a lot like through the other characters' eyes and their chapter perspectives. They like always like remark, so like, wow, Sora is just like so kind. But then in her chapters, she's really like, no, I'm not really that kind. Like, I would do anything for my sister, and I will. But like, just because she's like thinking that and she's like being introspective, it's like, no girl, you are really kind. And then similarly, Taeyoung, his chapter perspectives, I'm also really enjoying. And again, in the first book, along with Sora, he was like the character I was least interested in. But in this one, his chapter perspectives have been very interesting. And in this one, he's like the only one of our characters who is not with the rest of the characters because of his certain circumstances. And just like the developments that are going on in his chapters are so fascinating, and they're just like making me think like, what in the world is going on? What is up with the king? What is he plotting? Through his chapter perspectives, we do get to see like more of his personality. And again, like Sora, I just think that he's genuinely just a really nice guy. And I feel like at the moment he is serving as a character foil to one of our other characters, Yoon, which I'm finding very fascinating, because both Taeyoung and Yoon, they were both raised by nobility, so they both came from noble backgrounds, where all our other characters do not. So they have that common ground, yet you see like they act very differently, because at his core you see Taeyoung is just really nice. But I feel like Yoon isn't like that at his core. Like, he's trying. He's done some like really horrible things in his past. This book, the big thing has been like he's trying to make this effort, but the way he is doing it isn't quite working. Like, he says some things that actually make the other characters think he's even more of a horrible person. And I think that has like a lot to do with like his upbringing and how he was raised. So he doesn't quite realize that like what he's saying is as bad as it really is. And on the other hand, while Taeyoon's father is an awful person and Yoon's brother is an awful person, Taeyoon had a positive role model in his life, which was his mother. And unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think Yoon had anyone like that in his life. That little detail right there might be why Taeyoon and Yoon are so different at their core, just because Taeyoon had a positive role model. And I feel so bad for him because he loves Miguel and he would do anything for him. And I'm going to read a quote from page 119 something that Yoon says about Miguel and their relationship that really hit me in the heart. So he says, "It's not normal, this love, but it's ours. I could never love anyone else like this. I could never love anyone else at all." And so that just hurt my heart. And so yes, Miguel and Yoon's relationship continues to be very angsty, and they're kind of just still stuck in that rut with Yoon very much wanting to be together with Miguel and loving him, whereas Miguel is kind of seeing all these things and being like, wow, Yoon is even worse of a person than I thought he was. So that's kind of sad. But hopefully it'll get better, because I do understand where they're coming from. Yes, Yoon's not a very good person, but he's trying, he's making efforts. But I do agree with Miguel in that I don't think that Yoon should be the next king if they get rid of his brother who's currently on the throne. I just feel because of Yoon's upbringing, where he if he becomes king, he might try to do what he thinks is best, but because of his upbringing, it might not actually be the best thing. Then one other thing I want to mention is the feeling of found family between these characters was very strong in the first book, and I feel in the second book it's kind of still there, but because of what happened at the end of the first book, it's a little broken. But I want to read a quote from Ari to Sora that really tugged at my heartstrings and shows that there is still that feeling of found family in this book, even if it is a little broken at the moment. So, on page 123, Ari says to Sora, "Because you and the others are like family, but not a family I've ever known. The one I've always wanted. One that actually gives a shit about me. And I'm not going to lose you. I lost my home once. I won't let it happen again." And that hit me in the feels. Those are all my thoughts at the moment. Like I said, I am really enjoying it, and I hope I continue to enjoy it. Just a little bit afraid to see where things go, because some of the characters are still hiding secrets from each other, and I'm like, oh no, that's when those secrets come out, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be pretty. Another found family moment. Oh no. Oh no. My gosh, that really happened? I don't want to believe that just happened. There are so many twists at the end of this. Oh, but that last chapter hurt the most. And now to wait for the third one to come out. Oh. Hi, so I am here. I have finished 4 Ruined Realms, so I'm here with my final thoughts. I am giving this 5 stars. I loved it just as much as the first one, Though I will say, like I mentioned in an earlier update, that I do feel like my only critique is that the beginning of this was a little bit slower than the first book. However, once things started happening around page 100, they didn't stop happening all the way to the end. And the last 100 pages of this were just explosive and action-packed, and things happened that I wasn't expecting, and a certain thing in particular happened that I really wasn't expecting, and I'm still in denial over that thing because it happened, and I was like, did this really just happen? Because it's something that if it was going to happen, I wouldn't expect it to happen in the second book. I'd say like if it was going to happen, it would probably happen in the third book, which is going to be the final book of this series because it is supposed to be a trilogy. And the event in question that happened was on page 358 in chapter 69, and it was just super sad and devastating, and it was made even sadder by the other characters' reactions to it. And I am still not over it happening. And in addition to that, there were some other eye-opening revelations at the end of this book as well. And of course, it ends off on a big cliffhanger. And overall, I just had a lot of fun with this. My favorite thing about this book is the characters, and it is very character-centric. And speaking of the characters, Ari and Ryo remain my favorites all the way to the end. And the development of Ari and Ryo's romantic relationship in this book was just everything. They're just super cute and precious. And I just want to share a line between the two of them that made my heart happy. And there's not really any spoilers in this. But it's on page 358, and this chapter is from Ryo's perspective. So he asks Ari, "Do you want me?" And she replies, "For tonight," she says, "and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow." And I just thought that was the sweetest thing ever. And then in addition to those two, I feel like Sora really shined in this book. And after Ari and Ryo, she is my third favorite character now. And I feel like that is a big difference from book one, because in book one, I found her to be like one of the least interesting characters. But I feel like in this book, we really got to see more of her personality, and I really liked what we got to see. And similarly, also, Taeyong, his chapter perspectives in this book were super interesting, and there were some revelations towards the end in his chapter perspectives where I was like, oh my god, what is going on? Like, I have so many questions. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on Four Rune Realms. I ended up loving it. If you have read this, let me know down below what you thought. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!